Welcome back. Nordo in for PA 9 to noon. And joining me now, you can follow him at Wolves Radio via X, voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves, Alan Horton, joining me now. How are you doing this morning, Alan?
Nordo, I'm doing great. How are you, man?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I got the hockey team doing what it's doing, and then I can take a breath from the puck to watch the Wolves on the hardwood tonight hosting the Grizzlies. I believe you attend said morning skates and such, Mr. Horton, or morning shoot-arounds, I should say.
Yeah.
What'd you see this morning from our favorite hoop squad?
Well, a change in plans. Oftentimes they'll, if they have a couple of days before a game, sometimes they will bypass shoot-around. And so a late change. They had a practice yesterday, and they got in all their work about preparing for Memphis. And so beginning a busy stretch right now of this is 17 starting tonight, 17 straight days the Wolves will play every other night. And so the coaching staff kind of looks at that, and I think that kind of factored into trying to find some rest for the guys as much as they can to kind of get through this stretch. It'll also be 14 games in 26 days. And so you try to keep that long-term view while still, doing all the little things and putting in the work you need to do to beat, to keep the wins coming, because they're 7 out of 8 and the Wolves are 13-5. They got the 5th best record in the NBA over that stretch. And so things are headed in the right direction, but a busy stretch starting tonight.
How difficult is that for Finchie to handle when you think about he's got to tinker with some things, haven't seen Ant the last couple of days, want to figure out what we have in some of the kids? The lack of practice time associated with that schedule has got to be difficult for the coach to just find time to get some things on court to organize.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the coach's blood. I don't care what sport it is. They love practice, right? They want to continue to work on things. They want to try new combinations of players together, see the young guys with the old guys, get guys reps, get them up to speed. And you have to do that also with half your brain preparing for the future. Like, it doesn't do you any good to go, have a shoot around, play, have a practice, have a shoot around, play again, and then all of a sudden next week, when you're 6 days into this thing, everybody's gassed, everybody's worn out. It's too much. So you have to keep an eye on the long term as well as balancing that short term. And like I said, making sure you're prepared for every single night, because if you're not prepared for every single night, guess what? You lose those games. Even teams like Memphis that are struggling, Wolves do have a loss to Sacramento that's struggling. You don't come out 100% against any team in this league, you'll get beat.
The game tonight, 7 p.m.-ish tip-off, and you can always listen to it on the free iHeartRadio app, of course, but tonight you'll get to hear it on the Fan as well, shortly after Bumper to Bumper. Looking forward to that. We will start with Anthony Edwards and just this foot soreness that has kind of nagged him, and for a guy that just doesn't miss games, if he can go, he's going to go. We haven't seen him for 2 in a row, but those were W's both out in the Bay and then versus the Kings the other night. Are we optimistic, whether it's tonight and certainly maybe later this week against OKC, that we should see Anthony back in the mix?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be questionable. He's listed as questionable right now, so that technically means 50-50, and that's kind of where he's been on game days the last couple of games, the Golden State game, like you mentioned, and then Sacramento as well. And the Wolves have performed pretty well. They lost their first 2 without Ant this year when he had the hamstring issue earlier in the season. That was against the Lakers in Denver. But they've won 4 in a row without him since. And, when you don't have your number one guy, a guy who plays such a huge role on the team, you need everybody else to kind of step up. And the Wolves have gotten those kind of balanced attacks the last couple of games. Naz Reid's been on a tear off the bench. Julius Randle has taken, taken the leadership of this team in these last couple of games, and Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert. And you look up and down the lineup, and everybody's contributing. And it's Bones Highland last game. It's Rob Dillingham contributing some big fourth quarter minutes. Everybody's really stepped up, and you need that to happen if you're going to win games, over the long term without Anthony Edwards. But I think they're hopeful he'll be back for Friday. That's national TV. That's an 8:30 start. That's a Friday night. It's the holiday season. It's time to get after the refs a little bit, get after SGA. I think things are building toward Friday night. At least in my mind, they are. I can't wait for Friday. Not overlooking tonight. I mean, we have some feelings against Memphis, too, dating back a few seasons. But Friday night against OKC, man, that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It will be. And I do want to touch on OKC, as it feels like everyone's in a race for second against that juggernaut right now. But we'll get to that momentarily. You mentioned the Grizzlies, who they're having a down year, probably not a playoff team, although they're technically in the play-in right now, and they've won 8 of their last 11. On their side, they're just sweating, will Ja Morant either be able to play or does he want to play? Just kind of the way that Memphis has really, they've found themselves at this precipitous rate of degradation. Desmond Bane's no longer in the mix. Just a lot of struggles for them, but not a team, as you mentioned. We can't overlook those cats tonight.
Yeah, Ja Morant's hurt his ankle last game, so he's questionable heading into tonight. But they got Jaren Jackson Jr., who's always kind of a thorn in the side and a former Defensive Player of the Year. The guy that really has contributed to their winning, though, has been Zach Edey. He's their big man who played at Purdue. I think Big Ten fans are familiar with his work through the years. He's driven winning for this Memphis team. He missed the first chunk of games of the season. Then he comes back and they only lose. I think they went 8-2 in his 10 games, but now he's out injured again. And so, it has not worked out with Ja Morant. And he had the 1-game suspension earlier for conduct detrimental to the team when he called out his coach, not only in a locker room to him, but also to the media afterwards. And so you just don't know how this is going to play out with Ja Morant. He's not been as impactful, and the numbers haven't been as good, and the winning hasn't been there as in years past. And so he and Jaren Jackson Jr. haven't been enough. It's really been, like I said, Zach Edey who's been carrying the workload and the win rate. And unfortunately for the Grizzlies, those 3 guys have played 5 minutes together all season. So they've battled some injuries there too. So, but that's when you want to face a team when they're at some crossroads, and they're playing well of late. They got a little confidence, but without Edey, they've basically been able to feast on some sub 500 teams. They've really struggled. Only 1 win this year against a 500 or better team.
Oh, wow. Okay. I did not know that stat. I know, one of the best rebounds are going to be important to this one. I do want to jump back, to our favorite team and with Ant. You've mentioned it, the balanced attack that this team has found itself in these last couple of games. We can focus in on those without Anthony in the lineup. And it just seems like that's been the balancing act of this squad thus far, Alan, in terms of Anthony's going to go for 40 and Jaden McDaniels is going to go 1 of 7. Anthony Edwards is going to get you 12 or 15, maybe a little more on the assist side that night. And then it's Naz Reid and it's Jaden McDaniels that are carrying you offensively. It just seems like that struggle, and maybe it all relates to one particular position that they're still trying to master here, that finding that balance with Anthony in the mix has been a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, there are times where, it's all Ant and nobody else can kind of get on track. He's almost doing it kind of by himself rather than through the construct of the offense and through his team. And then you'll see games where Ant is a willing distributor, eager to set up his teammates, has a better feel for the game of when to set guys up and get touches. That's something I was talking to Mike Conley about last week. Before his injury. And I think the Wolves have missed him a little bit too the last couple of games. Even though his minutes have been down, he's been coming off the bench. Mike's such a steadying force. And he was talking about how, it takes time to develop, when to look for your shot, when to know everybody who's on the floor, what positions they're in, and how long it's been since they've had a touch or maybe a shot. How do I get someone else involved? And that's kind of the next level. How do you get to a level of scoring, which Ant is at an elite level, right? He's averaging close to 30 points a game, but also make the game feel like everybody else is involved. So it's something that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does very well. He gets the high scoring rate, but he also keeps his teammates involved. And Jalen Williams has big nights, and Chet Holmgren has big nights. And that's always the work in progress, is to get your top guy going, get your second guy, your third guy, and you just want that balanced attack. Now, it's not going to be perfect every night. There are going to be off shooting nights, but that's the kind of mindset you want to be in, is being impactful, but still playing that team game and getting everybody going.
What have you thought of Terrence Shannon Jr. now, post Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and if PA was here, he would call him a rolling ball of butcher knives. Terrence Shannon Jr., instant offense, instant energy, finds himself maybe getting a little too many fouls on the defensive side of things, and just kind of the ebbs and flows as a little bit older, but still immature in the grand scheme of his NBA career. Terrence Shannon Jr. finding his way along.
Yeah, and he's going to, he knew he was going to get an opportunity this season without Nickeil. He and Jalen Clark were going to try to, to sort of tag team those minutes, I think, that Nickeil brought you every single night for about 2.5 seasons. Nickeil was so good with the Wolves, not only with how he played, but the consistency that he brought every night. He missed one game in 2.5 years, and that wasn't because he was injured. It was because it was the second game after he got traded for. So Nickeil was awesome, and he's flourishing in Atlanta, and I know all the Wolves love to see that. And he got paid. He got himself a nice big contract, which he's well deserved. But TJ's kind of been up and down this season. And he battled through a foot issue that I think had a large role to do with that. And then he did have the game, last week, where he did have 3 fouls in 4 minutes. And the Wolves, their coaching staff really challenged him. Like, you've got to be better on the defensive end of the floor. It can't just be offense, which he preaches to everybody. Everybody's got to play both ends of the floor. You're not going to play very long. And I thought TJ responded with some good games over the weekend, especially that Golden State game on Friday night. They needed a performance like that. He's such a downhill player. Boy, he catches it and attacks, and he always puts the defense on their heels. Now, sometimes you could argue, I think, that he probably attacks too much when maybe there's not a lane there. Sometimes you have to be able to read what's available. Okay, it's not here. Let's move it. I'll get it back in a different position on a different spot on the floor, perhaps. And now maybe that lane's there. Or maybe it's the next possession, but picking those moments to go rather than going every single time. But when he does get going downhill and has got a lane, I mean, he's got the size and the strength to finish, and it's they need that off the bench, because the Wolves bench is really all Naz Reid as far as the scoring goes. No bench player in the NBA has carried a bigger percentage of their bench points than Naz Reid. Naz Reid has scored 44% of the Wolves' bench points, which is by far and away the highest rate in the league. So he's been tremendous, and he's on an upswing right now, knocking down threes. But you do need that balanced attack. You need TJ Shannon. You need Jalen Clark doing his things on the defensive end of the floor and then chipping in on offense. And then when you get Mike Conley back too, getting whatever minutes you're going to get out of Mike Conley. He's just such a steadying force on the floor, even though you look at the box score, his stats might not blow you away.
Well, it's kind of crazy with Jalen Clark. You mentioned box scores not blowing you away. Jalen Clark's not gonna get you, filling the stat sheet, so to speak. But there is a trend that plays out with Jalen, that the longer he's on the court, the more difficult and the steeper hill that any opponent has to climb to get over the hump against our team. Jalen Clark, a nice little piece if he can add a couple of buckets to that defense.
Yeah, and I think those buckets will come. He works so hard at practice and shoot around and off times, getting his shots up to be able to contribute in those spots, because he is so good defensively. His one-on-one defense is great. They've got metrics that are defensive field goal percentage. So what does the opponent shoot when you're the primary defender? And Jalen's been up amongst the league leaders almost all season. When he's on the floor, the Wolves' defensive rating is at an elite level. When he drops off, it's very Rudy Gobert-esque. When he's on the floor, both those guys, the defense is really good. And when they come off the floor and get a rest, the defense really suffers. So those guys make their impact on the defensive end. And when Jalen's in the zone and contributing like that, it just helps pick up some of the, there's so many talented offensive players, and guess what? Ant and Jaden can't defend everybody, and that's where you miss Nickeil, because he was so solid in those roles in defending wing defenders. You need Jalen Clark to be one of those guys coming off the bench that can help shut down and make life difficult for all the potent scorers in this league.
Now I want to get to Bones. What about Bones? Bones Highland. It's a cool name to say, and just following from, I can't remember if it was their title year or maybe the year after, but Bones, when he was playing for the Denver Nuggets, had just out of nowhere, he just couldn't miss. And I think it was early stages of the postseason, and there was just this buzz and this fervor around Bones. Now he heads to the Clippers either the next year or the year after that, kind of disappears in obscurity. And now we have him here in Minnesota, and you see him on a night when you needed him, dishes in 18 points and just look good on the floor. But is that truly just we're stemming the tide until Anthony's healthy? Kind of going back to what we were talking about maybe 5-10 minutes ago, just players having to plug the gap as we continue to figure out not just being balanced without Anthony, but who the heck's going to freaking handle the ball for 20-plus minutes a night and orchestrate this offense?
Yeah, it was good to see Bones have that kind of a game, especially in the starting lineup, because he was so excited to be in the starting lineup in Golden State, and it only lasted 3.5 minutes. Then he banged knees with somebody and was out for the rest of the game. So it was great to see him have a second opportunity, because it's something he's worked awfully hard at, and it's tough for young players in this league to find their way into teams, into positions, under coaches, to find their role to succeed. And so I think it's almost more difficult sometimes for young players to come onto good teams, because good teams are focused on winning games. They're not focused on making sure you get your minutes or this guy gets their minutes in the name of development. This isn't the Wizards situation. So if he'd been on the Wizards and gotten 28, 32 minutes a game, it might be a different scenario, but it was tough to find his way in Denver. It was tough to find his way with the LA Clippers. Now Tim Connelly, the guy who drafted him in Denver, brings him back to Minnesota at the end of last season. There wasn't an opportunity really for him to crack the rotation at that point. That was right when the Wolves were about to take off and finish the season on a 17-4 record and make their deep run. But he got a sense of how Chris Finch operated. He knows Tim Connelly. He got a sense of his teammates. He comes back this year, and he feels a little more comfortable. And he's, every year these guys, we have to forget that when they come in the league, they're 18, 19 years old. And even 3 years removed from that, you realize they're 22, 23, 24, and they're more mature. They've gone through experiences. They kind of accept things now. They have a better understanding. It's what all of us go through in life, right? We were so different from 18 to 20 to 22 to 24. And so it's the same for these guys. And so it's been difficult for Bones to find himself in a situation, and he probably would admit, too, that he maybe hasn't handled all those other situations very well. But he's had the right mindset from the moment training camp started this year, that this guy's got a smile on his face all the time. He will dap up everybody, whether you're the radio guy or whether you're Anthony Edwards or coaching staff. He's got a smile on his face. He's quick to say hi. It's he's got a great personality, a lot like Anthony Edwards too. It's that sort of a magnetic charisma. And so it's great to see him get this opportunity. And I think he, having gone through his prior experiences, probably appreciates it even more, and is even if and when Ant comes back, he'll clearly go back to the bench, but there might be a role for him now where maybe there wasn't a consistent one before. And when you're a winning team, it's about finding ways to have the team at their best and use all 18 guys that you have in your roster to find your way to wins. So if that means that Bones is playing better than Rob Dillingham, he's going to get more minutes than Rob Dillingham. If Rob's playing better, well, then he's going to get an opportunity. And if there are guys out, well, then that opens up opportunities for a lot of different guys. So it's, it's been fun to see Bones have that kind of game the other night. He definitely deserved it.
Time for a couple more here, and thanks again for your time, Alan. The other night, Rudy Gobert played 20 minutes against the Sacramento Kings, and then it was abruptly announced he was out for the remainder of the game due to personal reasons. Now, I assume maybe stuff like this, there were rumors, there were people that on the inside knew and everything, but on the outside, it's like, whoa, this is either catastrophically bad or miraculously good. Thankfully, it was on the good side of things. How about Rudy welcoming a new baby girl into the mix? There was a little, just what's going on with Rudy? And then we got the good news a day or two later. That's awesome.
Yeah, you're right. It could be really bad news or it could be really good news. And I was hoping when he was dapping up his teammates as he was leaving the floor and then leaving the bench area and obviously heading to the birth of his daughter, usually if it was something more serious, this is what I was hoping, is that it wasn't, that was a sign of something good, that he's dapping up his teammates. And, it's funny, at practice the other day, they just, they acknowledged that they thanked Rudy for putting in the time and for playing, because he easily could have not played, right? But he wanted to be there. He knew how important wins are. He played as long as he could, and then got the go code, if you will, and then was able to be there. And so, and it helped that, I don't know if he doesn't play the other night, I don't know that the Wolves pull out that win. I mean, he was instrumental in that victory. And so those kind of things don't go unnoticed. And it was great to see Rudy have a great night all the way around. He played well, the team got the win, and he welcomes his second child into the world. So that's fantastic news.
That is super cool. Now, later this week, getting back to it, OKC, and I was chatting Pat Micheletti. We were chatting wild hockey in studio last couple of segments, but we did venture into the Wolves world, and just the idea that when you talk about like windows, championship windows, what we've seen from OKC, not just last year in the Western Conference Finals, they hoist the trophy. We're all sad and downtrodden, but now 24-2 and what they've put back on the court this year. Just, I wonder whether you're Tim Connolly or maybe just at a more floor level, it's Finch and the squad, like how they view, again, is it a race for second? But really just maybe more focusing in simply into Friday night, just maybe despite being a regular season game in mid-December, like how pumped they are to play this game and figure out how to best those Thunder.
Yeah, I think they played the Thunder really well a couple of weeks ago in OKC. That was a game that was tied with about 3 minutes to go, and unfortunately that came in the stretch where the Wolves were really struggling. They had lost in Phoenix, Sacramento, and OKC. All with, really poor end of game, final 3 minutes and overtime struggles. So I think they feel like they match up very well against Oklahoma City. You always look to improve your team. I don't know that you do it with one team in mind though. Because you only play the Thunder 4 times during the regular season. You take your best shot at them, and who knows, you may not even see them in the postseason. If you want to get to where you want to go, you're likely going to see them. But my point is, you just don't keep them in mind solely in terms of trying to fill a hole. If you can improve your team and you think that makes you better against OKC, well, that's fine. But I don't know that you start making moves based on any potential opponent down the line. But it is going to be fun. I'm glad this game is at home. I feel like there's some real, social media is not a great barometer, I think, of the general public's views. It's very, we're being force-fed exactly what we want to see, apparently, from our algorithms and all that.
Yeah.
But I will say that I feel like there's some anti-OKC, momentum coming. More and more people are pointing out that what we've seen all year, last couple of years with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and his antics getting to the free throw line. This is a supremely talented guy. There's no doubting that. But I think what people have had enough of, and we've seen plenty of firsthand, is, on the marginal contact and him selling that and, having just collapsing to the floor, flailing himself to the deck. That's the stuff that he seems to get rewarded with more than other players in this league. And I'll be interested to see how, I just think a lot is building toward Friday night. Maybe it's just me because I want to see this matchup, but, how Chris Finch and the fans get into it and how you handle the referees and really kind of getting into this game early so that those kind of things don't build. But I mean, Shai has made a master. It's kind of like when James Harden started to take control in Houston. Oh. He just kind of changed the game. He pushed the envelope. Yeah. And I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does the same thing. He's pushing the envelope. And what's troubling though is that it appears at least that the referees are looking to reward that. They're so quick to give him a whistle. I mean, there's a famous play in the Western Conference Finals where Shai drives. He tripped himself up. He tripped on the floor, went down, and there were 2 whistles right away. Like, what you saw what? And the Wolves had to challenge that. It was clearly not a foul, but they're so quick to reward Shai Gilgeous-Alexander when oftentimes it's not deserved. And so we'll see if that plays into things. I didn't think it really did in the first meeting, but I don't know. I think we're going to get some. I think things are going to be heated on Friday night. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. But before that, let's handle the Grizz. Call a great one tonight, and always appreciate you joining the show, my man.
You got it, Nordo. Anytime.
Thank you. That's Alan Horton at Wolves Radio via X, voice of your Minnesota Timberwolves. And again, tip-off shortly after 7 p.m. tonight at Target Center. Wolves hosting the Grizzlies. Sounds like we're going to have to wait until the 11th hour to hear if Anthony Edwards is playing. Similarly for Ja Morant and tweaking his ankle, because he's always tweaking his ankle. But that's 7 p.m.-ish, and you're going to get to hear that right here on the Fan. Final hour, Nordo in for PA. We're back in minutes. For PA, a couple of shorties to go here, and then we will give way to the program. And I just saw Common Man was nice enough to step in studio and say hey for a moment, so I can confirm that the host of Noon to 3 is here. The host of 9 to Noon is going to be back tomorrow, Vocal Maintenance Day on a Wednesday. It was an emotional win at the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night. Now we got to figure out how to beat the Giants at MetLife before a couple of division collisions and the 2025 season for the Minnesota Vikings. That's why it's been really a two-topic affair, 9 to Noon today, whether it's the Wolves hosting the Grizz tonight, what the Wild did last night. We're now winners of 5 in a row after a 5-0 W over the Capitals. 7 shutouts for your hockey team this year. By far leads the NHL. I think the Isles are in second with 4. So that's just kind of the vibe, and that's amidst, by the way, the Hughes Steam and the Kremline doing their thing last night with Urov getting a goal. I believe also an assist on the night. Might have been a 3-point night for Urov. Tarasenko with 2 goals and an assist as well. Kaprizov with the man advantage. Just beautiful work being done by the hockey team right now. Text line. I got this one. Doesn't have a name on it, but just how big of a swing and mortgage of the future does Billy G take? And he references, I don't know if this would ever be a thing. I don't want it to be a thing. Trade the Great Wall of St. Paul for a rental in Sidney Crosby. And do you go all in for 1 year, or would you rather have a 3 to 5 year window to win a championship? See, you trade for Quinn Hughes. Team's just on fire right now, red freaking hot, and you start talking about these sorts of things. I also got a text earlier. Do you think the Wild can beat the Panthers? I mean, that'd be a bit farther down the road, right? Now we're talking about hockey in June and maybe parade routes and all sorts of things. But that's the life that has just been thrust into this hockey team over in St. Paul, and it's a beautiful thing. To that question, I guess, hypotheticals, no. I mean, you want a window, right? You want to sustain greatness. You want to sustain your contending ability for as long as humanly possible. And that's where, whether it's with the Wolves, 2 straight Western Conference berths, or the Minnesota Wild now in the spot that they are in and appear to be in moving forward, is potentially the Wolves make a move. And Connolly can't be afraid to make this thing better if he believes that this puts them in a better spot over a 7-game series to oust OKC. Now, I mostly agree with what Alan Horton said last segment. You can't necessarily mortgage future or move assets simply to beat one team in the league. However, that's kind of a mix. You think about how certain teams in dynasty-like fashion kind of led to changes, whether it was in the 90s with the Bulls, you've seen it with the Lakers, you saw it, just LeBron-led teams in general, and then you look at the Warriors and how the way that they played, and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson in his absolute prime, et cetera, how that kind of changed the way the league focused on how they acquired talent, what they were looking for, and how to potentially beat the Warriors. Right now, it feels like you're going to be staring up at OKC, maybe not just this year, but for years to come. And so that does naturally or inherently, I think, impact how you view your own roster and how to get better. Now back to the Wild. Similar state of affairs. You get Quinn Hughes. This team's an absolute cup contender in 2025-26. Now, how do they get better? And in the end, I guess kind of moving it, just kind of aligning it with the Hoops team, the question is, I think you're talking about windows. You're talking about, consistent contention. That's what you want. And you want to hoist a Stanley Cup. You want to hoist a Larry O'Brien trophy. Target Center and Grand Casino Arena getting wild. But with all of that's happened, you're still looking up at the Dallas Stars. You're still, the Wolves are looking up at OKC. How do you get over that hump? The Wild are still looking up at the Stars. They're still looking up at the Avs. Love what you saw on Black Friday, the shootout victory over the Avs. You love how the Wild handled the Stars more recently. They're beating these big timers in the conference now. That's something you haven't been able to say for several seasons, so you dig that. But with all of it, as good as this is, as good as it can be, and maybe even get maybe get even better. Billy G making some more moves. The Panthers. The freaking Panthers. The Panthers with that roster and how, for Nations Cup, people worried about injuries. Kachuk, I think, gets hurt in the tourney, and then you find his way. And while he wasn't necessarily the story of that tournament, you think about Bennett, you think about the roster that they built down there, you're still looking up at some of those teams. So and this isn't about trying to stifle excitement, by the way. It's just kind of an interesting spot that both our teams are in, whether it's the Wolves, and let's figure out this point guard spot, man. And Bones, love Bones, same Bones. I don't like playing Bones 35 minutes in games that really count with the season on the line, however. So they got to figure that out. And then on the hockey side of things, how you match up. And this is a conversation that frankly, fun hockey fodder, hot takes at happy hour with Isaac style fodder. This is going to persist until we actually get to see it, right? Because as of now, unless the Wild were to find their way at the top of the Central, you're going to be playing either the Stars or the Avs in round one of the postseason, and we're going to get a final answer on that one way or the other. Just really fun, but again, windows and taking more big swings, etc. It's just that's the lot in life with both teams. But man, we're on the good side of it right now. And that is, again, whether it's Billy G, what he's done, what we have here with Finch and the Howl, man, the getting is good. The getting is good for hockey and hoops right now. Final segment around the corner.
I can't wait.
Final segment, vocal maintenance day in play. But I assure you the host will return tomorrow. Big ups to my guy Russo for joining during the first hour. Florio, head coach of the Wild, John Hines, hitting me up during the 10 a.m. hour, fresh off that victory last night. And good to see Pat Micheletti back in the studio. I haven't seen him in months. And then, of course, thanks to Alan Horton, voice of the Wolves. As the Wolves, you get to hear him on the Fan tonight. Tip-off shortly after 7 p.m. Right here on the Fan. The Wolves hosting the Grizzlies. And as you heard from our gal Rhonda Moss, questionable is Anthony Edwards at this particular point with the foot soreness. Heads up on a cool event. This originally it took place back in May. I didn't get to go. We just had some health issues at the Nordquist house, but a winter trip, Ballard's Resort. We're doing a walleye trip February 20th through the 23rd. And if we get enough folks in the mix, we're going to head up there for a few days, catch some walleye, and enjoy the beautiful winter wonderland up at Ballard's Resort. You can learn about it. The package includes lodging, meals, fishing, drinks, licensed transportation, includes all of that. And the spots are limited, so you can set the hook your spot. You can go to ballardsresort.com. Love it up there. And I just got this text message. Again, part of the conversation, a deviation from Vikings football. We're going to dig back deep into the purple tomorrow, of course. But just think about it for a second where we at one point, specifically earlier in the season and prior to the games actually counting, it's like, can we just get out of the first round? It's cool that we have Kirill back. Looking forward to that. Need to stay healthy. Hopefully, Jesper Wallstedt can do his thing and provide a complement, create that duo there in net. Can we just get out of the first round in the playoffs once in a while? Have we considered doing that? Could we just actually win a freaking series in the postseason instead of going up 2-1 and then losing 3 straight and getting ousted like we've been experiencing, it feels like, for the better part of a decade? We've gone from that in a month and a half, 2 months, to getting text messages like this. Hey, what do you think about Gus Bus for Draisaitl? Both needs, both great at their positions. In just 2 months, we've gone from, can we just win a playoff series, to now we got Quinn Hughes, maybe the best D pair in the league. We got the Krem line, and we're talking about, hey, I wonder if Sid would like to play here. Hey, why don't we give Gus Bus for Draisaitl? Not endorsing that trade, but my point is how quickly things have changed with the hockey team, and it's a beautiful thing. That's it for me, Nordo. Appreciate you guys listening whenever you do. The Common Man, the program with 10 to B, they're next right here on The Fan. Have an awesome afternoon.
Lucky we got 'em. Good time.
KFAN.com.